Welcome to the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation's annual Medal of Valor Awards ceremony. I am Ralph Diaz. It is my great pleasure to join you all recognizing and honoring outstanding men and women of CDCR and California Correctional Healthcare Services. This year, we have recorded the ceremony because of COVID-19. We did not want to risk anyone's health with a live, in-person event. This year has presented CDCR with perhaps its greatest challenge in its long history. We are in the midst of combating a pandemic unlike anything our country has seen in decades, which is particularly hazardous in facilities like prisons. I share your disappointment that we cannot meet today. This great event is one of the highlights of our year, especially mine. We all wanted to come together as one big, happy family to celebrate our heroes in CDCR and CCHCS. Personally, I enjoy shaking your hands, meeting your families, and having my photo taken with you. Instead, this year, we have created videos with photos of all the honorees. These will be presented shortly as CDCR's top management salutes your achievements. First, the singing of our national anthem by Correctional Counselor 2, Naomi Davis of the California Medical Facility in Vacaville.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Now, Reverend Humberto Gomez of Folsom State Prison will give the invocation.
Almighty God, in whom we live and move and have our being, we come into your presence in hope and thanksgiving. You are creator of all that is. We come into your presence this day to give you thanks for the bounty of your blessings, for the sharing between peoples, for the love of families and friends, comrades and sisters. Today, we pause to recognize men and women of valor whose extraordinary actions went above and beyond the call of duty to safeguard the life of the citizens in our communities. With respect and admiration, we proudly recognize their exceptional courage, bravery, and compassion as they selflessly serve those in need despite the challenging times we are living in. In this time of bewilderment and fear, we ask you to give all of us the courage to take care for one another. Especially, I ask that you send down your abundant blessings to all your sons and daughters working in our institutions. Protect them from harm, support them in their daily duties as they face the dangers with courage and determination. To their families, send them your peace for their anxieties, joy for their fears, hope for their despair, and a sense of your abiding presence wherever they may be. Merciful God, we also remember before you in this moment our departed work colleagues. We recall with reverence the good deeds they accomplished. May they rest in peace. and may your strength sustain us. May your power preserve us. May your hands protect us. May your way direct us. And may your love go with us this day and forever. Amen.
And now we honor the recipients of the Medal of Valor Awards. Our first awards are for the Employee Recognition Program. Presenting our Employee Recognition Awards will be Dr. Diana Tosh, Undersecretary of Healthcare Services.
Each year, directors in our divisions recognize employees in their areas for outstanding work. The first award is for the Executive of the Year. This year, it goes to the members of Government Alliance for Race and Equity, or GARE team at CDCR and CCHCS. The team members are Nolise Edwards, previously Chief of the Office of Victim and Survivor Rights and Services, and now Senior Advisor to the Secretary of the Government Operations Agency. Brenda Crowding, Deputy Director of the Office of Internal Affairs. Fergus Leckie, Captain at California State Prison, Sacramento. Pratika Nandlal, Attorney 3 for the CCHCS Office of Legal Affairs. Emma Regador, Staff Counsel 3 for CDCR's Office of Internal Affairs. Michelle Allen, Parole Agent 2, Division of the Adult Parole Operations, Northern Region. Olivia Briones, Regional Personnel Administrator for CCHCS's Fresno Regional Office. Ricardo de la Cruz, Associate Director, Human Resources at the Sacramento Headquarters. Kevin Grassel, Information Technology Specialist 2, Office of Research. Michelle Laguna, formerly a Student Assistant at the Office of Internal Affairs, now an Office Technician with Mule Creek State Prison. Jaron Nash, Chief Executive Officer at Avenal State Prison. Rosanna Rodriguez, Staff Service Manager 2 for the Office of Peace Officer Selection, Northern Region. Elizabeth Cheryl Davis, Staff Service Manager 1 for the Office of Training and Professional Development. Serena Calderon, Associate Director for the Office of Internal Affairs. Stephanie Kane, Correctional Counselor 3 for the Substance Abuse and Treatment Facility. Kan Wen, Staff Service Manager 2 for the Office of Internal Affairs. The team's work could not be timelier today. The movement for racial equity in California government is growing. CDCR joined many local governments, regional agencies, and state departments by creating a GARE team. They've finalized a 5-year strategic plan to guide practices and core strategies for making our government more representative of the people of California. Their work will help produce more diversity and equity in our workforce and our work. Thank you for your outstanding work. The next award is for the Administrator of the Year. This year's honoree is Christopher Applegate, Associate Director, Correctional Policy for the Division of Correctional Policy, Research, and Internal Oversight. He previously worked for CDCR's Office of Legislation since 2006, including as Assistant Secretary since 2015. Chris has made significant contributions to CDCR policy and legislation. This includes his work negotiating language for reducing the department's use of private contract beds to his successful negotiation of a legislative expansion of services for exonerated people. Recently, Chris helped lead a work group to address issues related to the incarcerated transgender community and to drive culture change within the department. We look forward to Chris's continued contribution in his new role leading the Office of Correctional Policy Research. Thank you for your outstanding service. The next award is for Correctional Supervisor of the Year. This year's honoree is Dee Lovett, Community Resource Manager at Avenal State Prison. Miss D, as she is known, is a whirlwind of activity as she promotes rehabilitation, anti-drug efforts, art programs, and many other activities. She puts the spotlight on success of incarcerated people to encourage and promote rehabilitation inside and outside the walls. Thank you, Miss D, for your great work. The next award is for Correctional Officer of the Year. The honoree is Heidi Richards, Security Patrol Officer at Pleasant Valley State Prison. Officer Richards exhibits a can-do attitude in all that she tackles. Her work ethic is inspiring to everyone. One of the more unusual and successful projects she instituted, the equestrian program at Pleasant Valley. Incarcerated men learn anatomy, injury treatment, nutrition, and other aspects of the care of horses. The program opens the door to possible careers as farriers, veterinary assistants, and caretakers. Thank you, Heidi, for your outstanding service. Our next award is for Healthcare Professional of the Year. The honoree is Sierra Robert, Public Health Registered Nurse at Mule Creek State Prison. Sierra Robert exemplifies the qualities and excellence and perseverance for the sake of public safety that define CDCR and CCHCS staff. Under her public health expertise, after a patient tested positive for tuberculosis at Mule Creek State Prison, she led the institution's efforts to successfully prevent an outbreak. Immediately upon detection of the case, she deployed teams to administer nearly 200 TB tests. The few positive patients were immediately isolated and received treatment. Subsequently, 4 months and 2 rounds of testing later, the contagion was successfully contained. She and her team received expressions of gratitude from Amador County Public Health officials for their fast, expedient response. Thank you, Sierra, for your excellent service. Our next award is for Rehabilitation Professional of the Year. This year, we have 2 honorees. They are Stephen Lambert, Correctional Officer at Sierra Conservation Center; Jennifer Wynn, Regional Associate Supervisor. For Stephen Lambert, working as a correctional officer is not simply a job, it is his mission. His attitude and dedication is manifest through actions. Stephen's past leadership over SCC's substance use disorder classroom modules helped change negative behaviors among the incarcerated population and created a better working environment for his fellow officers. He knows the program, providers, and students' names. He knows the curriculum. And most importantly, everyone knows he is there to support success and help change culture. Thank you for your outstanding service. When Jennifer enthusiastically agreed to this job, she became the first in the superintendent's team to have supported every CDCR adult school in the state. She is always willing to help anyone who needs assistance, be it with a sticky problem in SOMS, training new administrators, acting as a subject matter expert for the Office of Correctional Education Strategic Plan and the creation of new education models, or coaching new administrators. Thank you, Jennifer, for your outstanding service. Our next award is for the Division of Adult Parole Operations Professional of the Year. This year's honoree is Roosevelt Wiesenet, Parole Agent 3. Roosevelt's exemplary leadership and enormous yet quiet impact led to the outstanding results as he oversees the DAPO's Community Transition Program and Transitional Case Management Program. It is a big job. He has 110 staff in 35 prisons across the state and division headquarters. His staff is responsible for initiating the re-entry process for eligible inmates. His technical proficiency, effective communication, and team player attitude combine to make him one of CDCR's most successful leaders. Thank you, Roosevelt, for your excellent service. Our next award is for the Division of Juvenile Justice Professional of the Year. This year's honoree is Maria Hudson, Deputy Director of Administrative Services. In that role, she directed the creation of budget change proposals and managed 3 recent moves of the headquarters office. Maria supported DJJ at legislative pre-hearings and meetings. She led the hiring of new executives and has overseen hiring in administration, information technology, and the training academy. And she trained new staff in her former duties while treating her peers with professionalism and cheer. Maria, Thank you for your service. Our next award is the Beacon Award. This is the third year for this award. The Beacon Award was established to honor an employee, contractor, or volunteer who has fully embraced and expanded the department's rehabilitative mission to make California safer through small, everyday acts that recognize and tap into an individual's potential to transform. This year, we have two honorees. They are O'Brien Bailey, Correctional Administrator at Avenal State Prison; Karen Reed, Parole Agent 3, Division of Adult Parole Operations, Southern Region. O'Brien shows deep commitment to rehabilitation through his efforts in many areas, but his most notable achievement is the success of youth. He volunteered to coordinate all programming for the Youth Offender Program at Avenal, about 110 men. He creates a safe environment while these people are in prison and a vision of prosperous and productive life after incarceration. Our second honoree, Karen, found her passion for giving back to the community in unique ways. She single-handedly brought the concept of beach cleanups to the South, where parole agents and parolees work side by side cleaning up public areas every month and exposing the parole population to pro-social activities. She regularly organizes events in parole field units. During the holidays, Karen has organized toy drives and canned food drives for the needy families within the parole districts. Thank you both for your excellent service. Our next awards are for Distinguished Service Medals. Brenda Crowding, Deputy Director of the Office of Internal Affairs, will present them.
The Distinguished Service Medal is awarded for an employee's work conduct with the department for a period of months or years, or involvement in a specific assignment of unusual benefit to the department. Our first Distinguished Service Medals are awarded to Michael Tuntikit, Correctional Captain, Avenal State Prison; Jamie Shaw, Correctional Lieutenant, also at Avenal State Prison, who has since retired. At the request of their two wardens, Lieutenants Tuntikit and Shaw researched and wrote a modern, more effective, and job-specific training curriculum for CDCR's supervisors training. Their work brings value and meaningful training to learning participants. Their training model morphed into more than just a new curriculum. It changed into a new hiring practice and a new vision of support for first-line supervisors. Thank you both for your diligent work. Our next Distinguished Service Medals are awarded to the team who oversaw the creation and implementation of the Integrated Substance Use Disorder Treatment Program. They are Lisa Hines, Associate Director, ISUDT Project Executive; Renee Kanan, Deputy Director, Chief Quality Officer, Medical Services Division; Dwayne Reeder, Deputy Director, CCHCS Fiscal Services; Christopher Helton, Staff Services Manager 3, CCHCS Fiscal Services; Amber Berry, Associate Budget Analyst, CCHCS Fiscal Services; Barbara Barney Knox, Statewide Chief Nurse Executive, Nursing Services; Eureka Day, former Deputy Director, Mental Health Services; Elizabeth Granzi, Deputy Director, Healthcare Communications; Christina Hohobashvili, Chief, Office of External Affairs, OPEC; Ron Davis, Associate Director, Division of Adult Institutions, Reception Centers; Chantel Quinn, Associate Warden, Division of Adult Institutions, Office of Policy Standardization; Marvin Speed, Chief Deputy Administrator, Division of Adult Parole Operations; Kevin Hoffman, Deputy Director, Division of Rehabilitative Programs, Office of Program Operations; Hillary Eiserman, Deputy Superintendent, Division of Rehabilitative Programs, Office of Correctional Education; Michelle Weaver, Associate Director, Facilities Planning, Construction, and Management; Michael Potter, Staff Services Manager 3, Facilities Planning, Construction, and Management; Andrea Carter, Assistant Deputy Director, CCHCS Human Resources. Jacinda Mohammed, Deputy Director, CCHCS Human Resources. Margie McCune, Assistant Chief, Office of Labor Relations. Migdalia Siaka, Deputy Director, Office of Labor Relations. Annette Lambert, Deputy Director, Quality Management. John Dunlap, Deputy Medical Executive, Quality Management. Spencer Puente, Research Data Manager, ISUDT Dashboard, Quality Management. Stacy Lopez, Associate Director, Peace Officer Selection and Employee Development. Fran Archuleta, Deputy Director, Healthcare Business Services. Jennifer Beretta, Director, Healthcare Administration and Policy. Janine Del Mundo, Project Manager, CCHCS. Randy Fisher, Chief Administrative Officer, California Prison Industry Authority. Ryan Sousa, former Deputy Director, Division of Rehabilitative Programs, Office of Program Operations. Ronald Phillips, Staff Services Manager 1, California Prison Industry Authority. Marcus Dahlstrom, Physician and Surgeon, Quality Management and Performance Evaluation, CCHCS. In 2019, CDCR and CCHCS began managing substance use disorder as a chronic medical illness, with evidence-based treatments that reduce morbidity, mortality, and recidivism. The Integrated Substance Use Disorder Treatment, or ISUDT program, is a bold shift touching every part of our agency and supporting our core mission. Participants in ISUDT work to change their thinking and behaviors. They live in supportive housing, and they receive medication-assisted treatment if eligible. When they leave prison, ISUDT participants are assisted in successfully transitioning back to their life, with their families and in their communities, with direct connections to rehabilitative resources. The ISUDT Planning and Implementation Committee spearheaded efforts to build the foundation for this vital work. These leaders are from across CDCR and CCHCS, will receive Distinguished Service Medals for their achievements. Congratulations on a job well done. Connie Gibson, Director of the Division of Adult Institutions, will present the next awards.
Our next awards are the Bronze Star Medals. This medal is the department's award for saving a life without placing oneself in peril. The employee shall have used proper training and tactics in a professional manner to save and clearly contribute to saving the life of another person. Our first Bronze Stars are awarded to two people from the Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility. They are Alejandro Buenanostro, Correctional Officer, and Shalette Valencia, Licensed Vocational Nurse. Driving home after working double shifts, they came upon a two-car accident. They stopped to help. Exhibiting good teamwork, they split up to help the crash victims. Officer Buenanostro went to a vehicle where an elderly man was trapped, and he rendered aid until help arrived. LVN Valencia helped a young woman from the other car, which was still on the road, and moved her to safety. Thank you both for your service. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to Frank Hurtado, Parole Agent 3, Escondido 2 Parole Unit. Agent Hurtado heard the sound of a violent vehicle collision and saw the impact had flipped a car onto its top. He ran to the site and found the driver hanging upside down. He freed the driver from the vehicle and onto a nearby patch of grass. Recognizing the symptoms of shock in the driver, he helped reassure her and treated her until paramedics arrived. Thank you, Frank, for your sterling service. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to Renato Benitez Sanchez, Correctional Officer, California Institution for Men. Officer Benitez Sanchez was heading to Ironwood State Prison, where he spotted a woman sitting on an overpass. Pulling over, he asked, "Are you okay?" He soon realized she was contemplating suicide. Tears streamed down the woman's face as she shook her head no in response to his question. He called 911. The dispatcher told him the nearest officer was at least 20 minutes away. Renato eventually won the woman's confidence and guided her off the ledge. Thank you, Renato, for your brave service. The next Bronze Star is awarded to Hector A. Lopez, Associate Warden, the California Rehabilitation Center. While off duty, A.W. Lopez was walking to his car and saw two men taking an older man from a car. The man was lifeless. It turned out the two men were the sons of the older man. One of the sons tried to give his father chest compressions, but was having trouble. Hector identified himself as a law enforcement officer and took over giving CPR. After paramedics took the man to the hospital, Hector received a text message from a firefighter about the victim. Tell Hector, good job. He probably saved his life. Hector Lopez, thank you for your unselfish service. Our next Bronze Stars are awarded to 4 people from the California Correctional Institution. They are Albert G. Morales, Correction Officer, David Willer, Registered Nurse, Daniel Hawk, Associate Governmental Program Analyst, Nicholas Hernandez II, Correctional Counselor. Driving to CCI, the 4 came across an accident that had just happened. A vehicle had rolled over numerous times and came to rest on its side. Showing admirable teamwork, 2 in the group climbed on top of the vehicle to get the driver and render aid. Meanwhile, the other 2 worked to remove the windshield so the victim could be removed by paramedics who arrived later. The 4 handled the situation so well that a deputy sheriff could concentrate on controlling traffic. Thank you all for your excellent service. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to Rosalie Coda, Parole Service Associate, Calipatria State Prison. While driving to work, PSA Coda came upon a vehicle flipped on its side. Upon reaching the vehicle, Rosalie saw one person inside the vehicle suspended by his seatbelt and being smothered by an airbag. The injured man, a correctional sergeant, handed her his utility knife and she deflated the airbag. The wreckage was mangled and compressed like an accordion with limited space to move around. Rosalie was able to open the trunk and crawl in through the back of the vehicle, finally reaching the man. She cut the seatbelt that was choking him and comforted him for about 40 minutes until first responders arrived. Thank you, Rosalie, for your brave service. Our next Bronze Stars are awarded to Kevin Morewise, Correctional Officer, Wasco State Prison, and Christopher Ponce, Correctional Officer, North Kern State Prison. Officer Morewise saw a Bakersfield Police Department cruiser lose control at an exit ramp and roll down an incline, coming to rest on its roof. The driver of the car, a police officer, was hanging upside down in the wreck. Officer Ponce arrived on the scene soon afterwards. Christopher crawled into the wrecked car and cut the officer's seatbelt, allowing him and Kevin to remove the injured officer. They both treated the officer, who was bleeding heavily from a head injury. Officers Morewise and Ponce, thank you both for your life-saving service. Our next Bronze Stars are awarded to 3 people from the Sierra Conservation Center. They are Richard Russell, Correctional Counselor 2, Supervisor, Andrew Pilati, Correctional Lieutenant, and Michael Nord, Correctional Officer. The 3 were on their way home from work when they saw a car that had gone over a barrier and about 30 feet down a steep embankment. They moved down the embankment and found 2 elderly victims, one of whom was going in and out of consciousness. They kept the couple calm until first responders arrived. They then helped the ambulance personnel put the victims on backboards and carry the backboards up the steep incline. Thank you all for your excellent service. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to Daniel Kirk, Correctional Counselor 2, Supervisor, Sierra Conservation Center. While attending a Board of Supervisors meeting, a man in the audience collapsed. Mr. Kirk rushed to his aid with others. A bystander said the man had suffered a heart attack the previous year. Realizing the victim probably had another heart attack, Daniel grabbed a standby automated external defibrillator. The victim's heart quit beating. Daniel assembled the defibrillator and when indicated, gave the victim a controlled shock while others performed CPR. The victim's heart started beating again and he was transported to a hospital. Daniel Kirk, thank you for your life-saving service. Our next Bronze Star presentations will be made by Jeff McCumber, Undersecretary of Administration.
Thank you, Connie. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to Paul Ford, Parole Agent 1, Stockton 2 Parole Unit. Traveling in Stockton, Agent Ford saw a homeless encampment on fire. Paul helped one woman who suffered burns get to an ambulance. He began helping firefighters move people away from the burn area and then clear tents and other flammables from the fire area. He and Stockton police moved more than 40 people to safety. Then Paul joined police in keeping a large crowd of onlookers from getting in the way of firefighters. Thank you, Paul Ford, for your outstanding service. Our next Bronze Stars are awarded to a group from Avenal State Prison. They are Antoinette Rossi, licensed vocational nurse, Jashawn Bakes, correctional officer, Karen Gladden, registered nurse, Lori Thomas, licensed vocational nurse, and Stuart Lyons, fire captain. In a team effort at the scene of a horrific accident, these CDCR staff members were first on the scene. Both victims, who were CDCR officers, were trapped in their vehicles. When the team discovered one victim was deceased, they concentrated their efforts on freeing the other severely injured officer. They succeeded and worked to stabilize him, keeping him from going into shock until he could be airlifted to a hospital. Thank you for your brave service. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to 2 correctional officers from Central California Women's Facility. They are Juan Gutierrez, Correctional Sergeant, and Alex Alva, Correctional Officer. In Chowchilla, Sergeant Gutierrez and Officer Alva witnessed a recreational vehicle run a stop sign and collide with a truck. The collision flipped the RV on its side and into a telephone pole while the truck rolled into a canal. Officer Alva rescued the truck driver and gave him first aid. Sergeant Gutierrez saw that 2 of the RV passengers had been ejected and 2 were still trapped in the vehicle as it leaked gas. He cut the seatbelts off the trapped victims and pulled them to safety. Help arrived, including a large response from CCWF, but the pair continued to aid the fire victims until they were transported to the hospital. Thank you both for your outstanding service. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to Fred Moss, Correctional Officer, Central California Women's Facility. The supposedly routine shopping trip for Officer Moss turned into a life-saving operation for a crime victim. Near the register at a Fresno grocery outlet, he saw a woman on the floor bleeding profusely. She was starting to lose consciousness. He grabbed rags and gloves and ran to the victim. Applying pressure to the wound, Fred stopped the bleeding. With his quick thinking and action, Fred probably saved the woman's life. Thank you, Officer Moss, for your life-saving service. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to Tim Orpert, Correctional Sergeant, Sierra Conservation Center. Sergeant Orpert was taking a lunch break from helping family and friends brand calves. Suddenly, a man stood up and appeared to be having trouble breathing. Tim asked if the man was choking. He nodded yes. Employing the Heimlich maneuver, Tim was able to make the man spit out a large chunk of meat. Thank you, Tim, for your life-saving service. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to Mark Rosales, Correctional Sergeant at California State Prison, Los Angeles. Sergeant Rosales was returning from a gym workout when he came across a traffic accident. He immediately acted to help the victims. Mark began CPR on one of the victims and saw that the man was wearing a CDCR uniform. He was a Lieutenant Mark New at California State Prison, Los Angeles. Holding back his emotions, Mark continued CPR until paramedics arrived. But despite his heroic efforts, the victim later died at the hospital. Thank you, Mark, for your dedicated service. Our next Bronze Stars are awarded to 2 medical professionals from Mule Creek State Prison. They are Samantha Lopez, medical assistant, and Manish Sharma, registered nurse. A severely injured motorcyclist on a lonely road owes his life to 2 medical personnel finding him as they drove between their homes and the prison. The cyclist suffered 2 broken legs and arms and was bleeding. M.A. Lopez and R.N. Sharma immediately started treating the cyclist who had been hit by the car. Samantha used her shirt as a tourniquet while Manish treated his other injuries. They stabilized the victim until help could arrive, likely saving his life. Thank you both for your life-saving service. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to Timothy Sanders, Correctional Lieutenant, California State Prison, Corcoran. CDCR folks are trained to keep their head in a crisis, as Lieutenant Sanders proved last year. On his way home, Lieutenant Sanders found a truck that had just wrecked. The most severely injured person was a woman who had been ejected. While directing a bystander to call, Tim rolled the victim into the recovery position. Unable to determine if 911 had been called, he directed another bystander to call for help. He also asked that another person canvass the area for other victims while he helped the severely injured woman until help arrived. Thank you, Timothy Sanders, for your outstanding service. Our next awards will be presented by Kathleen Allison, Acting Undersecretary of Operations.
Good day, everybody, and thank you for joining us here today. I know it's an unusual way to do our ceremony. Certainly not unlike all the ceremonies that those of us who had loved ones graduate through a drive-through graduation. Certainly not the same experience. I just encourage all of you to share this honor with your loved ones, as we're all here to honor you today. I'm here to present the award for Silver Star. The Silver Star is the department's third highest award for acts of bravery under extraordinary or unusual circumstances. The employee shall display courage in the face of potential peril while saving or attempting to save the life of another person, or distinguish him or herself by performing in a stressful situation with exceptional tactics or judgment. Our first Silver Star is awarded to David Vega, Correctional Sergeant at the Office of Peace Officer Selection. In January of last year, Sergeant Vega found himself dealing with a gruesome situation almost beyond description. Returning with his family from a recital, David saw an object in the freeway being hit by a car. He soon recognized it was human remains. He pulled over. A man in front of his car walked into the traffic. David ran onto the freeway and guided the hysterical man, who was crying and going into shock, to the center of the divider. The man screamed, "I killed him. He just ran in front of my car." David calmed the man and then acted to shelter the dead body, which was mangled from being run over by several cars. He found several traffic cones nearby and used them to mark the body's position on the freeway. David also found himself comforting the man's wife, as well as his own wife and niece. All the while, he remained in control of a horrific event, preventing further injury until help arrived. Thank you, David Vega, for your brave service. Our next Silver Star is awarded to Amanda Duncan, Correctional Officer at the Sierra Conservation Center. What began as a fun day at a popular swimming hole soon turned deadly, leaving Correctional Officer Duncan facing a life or death situation. A break with her children at God's Bath, a swimming area on the Clavery River and in Stanislaus National Forest, was a nice way to spend a hot July afternoon. After a few hours, the Duncan family was ready to head home. A man was standing next to the Duncan taking pictures and video of a woman who was jumping off the rocks into the water. Amanda saw the woman surface near a dangerous waterfall. The woman panicked and went under. Amanda dove in and swam to where the woman went down. The current and the conditions made it difficult for Amanda to get a good grip. Amanda was finally able to get the woman to safety and then began CPR. The woman began to breathe again and then was airlifted out and survived. Thank you, Amanda Duncan, for your heroic service. Our next Silver Star is awarded to Stephen Leach, Correctional Officer at the California Healthcare Facility. While enjoying a day off with his daughter, Officer Leach suddenly found himself back in the role of serving and protecting. While driving on the freeway, he saw a mangled car that had been in an accident. He stopped to see if he could help. A driver, a man, was trapped inside the car with his wife. The man was bleeding and incoherent. Smoke began to come from under the hood. The female passenger began to panic. Stephen smashed the side window and pulled the women to safety. Returning to the driver, he began to help the man who was pinned and crushed by the door and dashboard. Ignoring the fire risk, Stephen used his shirt as a dressing for the man's head wound. He reached inside the car and began removing parts of the door and dashboard to free the man. Soon others arrived, and the man was freed using the jaws of life. The man and his wife lived to tell the story of the bad accident they were in. Thank you, Stephen, for your cool head and bravery. Our next Silver Star is awarded to James Lehman, psychologist at the California Substance Abuse Treatment Facility and State Prison at Corcoran. James normally provides assessment and therapy to clients, but one day he had to apply direct physical force when an inmate attacked a correctional officer. While doing his work, James witnessed an inmate grab the officer by the vest and punch him in the face repeatedly. The officer fell and the inmate straddled him, continuing to land punches. James ran to the attack scene and pushed the inmate off the officer. He wrapped his arms around the inmate's torso and held him down, risking exposure to OC pepper spray. James allowed responding officers to secure the inmate without further injury to anyone. Although events unfolded rapidly, James stayed focused and helped end the attack. Thank you, James, for your brave service. Our next Silver Star is awarded to Ricardo Anchetta, correctional officer at the California Men's Colony. Correctional Officer Anchetta was surprised to see an SUV wedged under a semi-trailer as he drove home. Smoke and flames could be seen coming from the SUV's engine. Using bolt cutters, Officer Anchetta broke the back window so he could crawl in and check on the driver. The victim urged him to find her son, but Ricardo couldn't find the child in the SUV. He called for bystanders outside the vehicle to check. The child was found sitting on the side of the road with minor injuries. Ricardo stayed with the victim and kept her from panicking as flames continued to burn under the hood. CHP arrived and put out the fire. Ricardo stayed with the victim until responders used the jaws of life to free the victim. Thank you, Ricardo Anchetta, for your brave service. The next award will be presented by Secretary Diaz.
Thank you, Cappy. Our next presentations will be for Gold Star medals. The Gold Star Medal is the department's second highest award for heroic deeds under extraordinary circumstances. The employee shall display courage in the face of immediate peril and acting to save the life of another person. The first Gold Star Award is to Robert Dixon, Correctional Officer, California Rehabilitation Center. In just a few seconds, Officer Dixon probably saved 7 lives, including his own. On April 22, 2019, when a historic plane crashed on a CRC construction site, Robert heard the sounds of an airplane in trouble, and he was overseeing 2 incarcerated men helping 4 non-custody workers. The plane circled the yard and then nosedived. Realizing the plane was going to hit near them, Robert hustled the men into the relative safety of a Connex box. Seconds later, the plane crashed 15 to 20 feet away. Shards of metal hit the box and fire scorched the exterior. Shortly thereafter, Robert and the men emerged with only one of them having minor injuries. The pilot was killed. He was flying an N-9M aircraft, a so-called flying wing, and one of only 4 ever built. Thank you, Robert Dixon, for your brave and life-saving service. The next Gold Star is awarded to Correctional Officer Nichelle Aguilar of California State Prison, Solano. Preparing for bed in her home, Officer Aguilar heard someone ringing her doorbell. A bloodied female teenager screamed that her stepfather had stabbed her and her mother. As she rushed across the street, Nichelle phoned 911. She found a woman crawling on the driveway with stab and slash wounds to her throat. Nichelle ran back to her residence for a towel. She used it to apply pressure to the woman's wounds, and the victim drifted in and out of consciousness. At the same time, she counseled the teenage stab victim to keep her from going into shock. Police and paramedics arrived, and Nichelle turned care of the victims over to them. She then told police about the children remaining in the house. One of them had suffered critical burns. Nichelle's prompt and brave actions probably saved the life of the woman in the driveway. Her cool head helped police and paramedics immediately assess the situation they were facing. Thank you, Nichelle Aguilar, for your service. To complete the story, Police later shot and killed the stepfather as he inflicted serious stab wounds to a police canine. The next Gold Star is awarded to former Correctional Sergeant Harley Robbins of Centinela State Prison. Traveling home, former Sergeant Robbins saw a turned-over vehicle in an irrigation canal with people swimming toward it. Harley stopped and dove into the water. A 16-year-old passenger was trapped inside the vehicle. Another person tried to get out but could not undo the seatbelt, holding in the unconscious victim. Staying focused, Harley removed the victim from the vehicle, now underwater, and swam with her to the bank of the canal. Harley and an off-duty doctor performed life-saving measures on the victim. They got a pulse before emergency medical help arrived. The family later chose to remove the girl from life support. The family later said they wanted to thank Harley and others for their help that kept the girl alive long enough for them to say goodbye. Thank you, Sergeant Robbins, for your brave service. Our final award is the Medal of Valor. The Medal of Valor is the department's highest award. The Medal of Valor is awarded to employees who distinguish themselves by conspicuous bravery or heroism above and beyond the normal demands of correctional service. This year, the Medal of Valor is awarded to Officer Alfred Gascon of Calipatria State Prison. Driving home from work, Officer Gascon saw dust arising from near a highway intersection. When he reached the intersection, he came upon two severely damaged vehicles. Alfred stopped to help. The wreck left the driver of the first vehicle trapped inside, but alert and largely unhurt. He told Alfred he had already called 911. The driver of the second vehicle was unconscious, but breathing. However, witnesses said a passenger in the second vehicle was missing. Alfred quickly canvassed the area. He couldn't find any sign of the passenger. However, he noticed the water in the nearby canal was a different color in one area. He immediately went into the water and found the passenger. The victim had severe head injuries and no pulse. Bystanders refused to help Alfred get the victim out of the water, but he still succeeded. He began life-saving measures. After several minutes, the victim's heart started beating again. Black smoke began to pour out from under the hood of the first vehicle. With the passenger now breathing, Alfred rushed to the first vehicle, broke the driver's side window, and helped him to safety. He then returned to the victims from the second vehicle and continued helping them until the first responders arrived. Well done, Alfred Gascon. Jeff Bauer, a videographer with the Office of Public and Employee Communications, has created a video of Officer Gascon's life-saving actions.
Friday was my last day in Chacawalla. Chacawalla is located in Blythe, so I was driving back from Chacawalla. It's a 2-hour drive home, so I was excited. I wasn't gonna drive that boring road again, and I wanted to get home 15 minutes before, so I took a different road, and I ran into this. Monday, I was scheduled to report to Calipat. I usually never take this road back home. Just the fact that as a fireman, we used to respond a lot to accidents there. A lot of people tell me you took that road for a reason, because if you never took it and you took it that day, there's a reason you went down that road. You were meant to be there. Carroll County is surrounded by canals here. And as a fireman, I've had situations before that I would have to jump into canals to bring somebody out. I had multiple vehicle car accidents, vehicle rollovers, vehicle extractions. I've been through these situations before. I think that's what helped me the most, to keep calm. You know what? I didn't even think about the stress. I didn't even think about who do I got next. I work as a fireman, you hear the tone out and you mentally prepare yourself to the situation of what you might have or what you might encounter, what you might see. Driving home, not expecting anything, seeing all this, I didn't think it was gonna take a toll on me, but it did. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, when I showed up on Monday, I made a call to my buddy at the sheriff department. I told him, hey, what's the update on guys? So I found out a little bit about the guys. Stranded the guy on the gray vehicle, he was a lieutenant in Calapat, or a captain, and then he transferred to RJD and retired as an assistant warden. So that's how I know much about him. His wife works at Calapat. Coincidentally, he was a former CDC employee. The two guys driving the other vehicle, they were in an MCRP program in our county. We were all connected to CDCR some way. Came around Tuesday, I get a call from CHP wanting a statement on what I had done and seeing. So I gave him a statement and I asked him, what is the status? So once they told me all three guys are alive, I think that was the day I was able to go back to sleep. My kids made fun of me. My wife congratulated me. She's like, hey, congratulations. My kids walk around, they're like, oh, whatever, Medal of Valor, whatever. I mean, my kids are 16, 14, and 13, so it was, whatever. Medal of Valor, you're walking around like this, like, whatever, man. I mean, we like to give each other a hard time, and they did. As far as work, ever since that happened, it's, hey, what's up, hero? Like, whatever, man. Hey, what's up, hero? Whatever, man. There's a couple of guys that joke about how my picture was taken. Not gonna lie, I haven't told nobody at work about me getting the Medal of Valor, because there's up to this day, there's people, hey dude, why have you never told me the story? And I tell them, well, that's not something I brag about. I mean, if you ask me, I'll tell you the story. I mean, I feel honored getting it, and I'll do it again if I didn't even get nothing. I would do it again if I was placed in that situation. I feel the same. I feel like anybody else will feel. I mean, hopefully anybody else in that situation will do the same thing. I didn't do it for the medal. I didn't do it to get recognition. I didn't do it for none of those reasons. I mean, I did it because I was there and it happened. I do think back on that day. I think, what would have happened if I would have taken the other road that I usually take? What would have the outcomes would have been that day, or did I take that road for a reason? I did what I would anybody else would want. I want somebody to do for me. So that's the way I live my life. I do things like not expecting, but hoping that if I'm ever in that situation, somebody would do the same.
This year's honorees show that the bravery and professionalism of our staff extends beyond institution walls and into the community. Our staff must wear many hats every day, keep order, ensure safety, encourage rehabilitation, and serve the people of California. None of this is easy. But as you can see today from the honorees, CDCR staff do it well, and do it every day. Congratulations to all of our award recipients. This concludes our ceremony. Thank you for watching, and best wishes to you and your families. God bless.